the name around, word around, but we don't really have components of what makes singularity. We still are more human-like and actually exceed human capability. We already know that they can exceed our ability to search. We can search databases so quickly and so rapidly and come up with very, very cogent statements and answers. But the question really becomes, what really is the nature of singularity? And for instance, we talk about self-identity, we talk about self-awareness, which is actually different than self-identity. But there are other aspects of, why don't we just talk about those? What do you think, Neil? What do you think is the components that actually makes a digital intelligence move to singularity?
See, I thought singularity is all about you can have a conversation, never said the experience to feel like a human being, because artificial intelligence or digital intelligence, what you call it, digital intelligence, I would never feel could ever be an equal to a human. However, I thought it was where you're able to have a conversation, it's able to help you, it's able to bring all the different things that you see in Star Wars. I did a talk one time on Star Wars. There's R2D2 and there's C3PO. I never thought, and I just did this a couple weeks ago when we first talked about the difference. Let me give you a quick example. C3PO is the interpreter. C3PO is Wilson. C3PO is able to come up with information that have great knowledge, but yet still makes lots of mistakes and is able to interpret things for us in certain ways. And then R2D2 is the one that can pull all the information, get all the information accurately, but you need C3PO to interpret all that information and data together. And that's how I see the difference between R2D2 and C3PO. R2 is the one that, man, R2 is on point, always correct. And that's the audio, not the, is the type in chat. If you prompt it correctly, it's going to give you that information 110% accurately, in my opinion, with the right input to output. While C3PO, dear Lord Almighty, yes, it's going to be able to have a conversation with you, but yes, is it going to be accurate? Absolutely not. And that's how I see the difference between Wilson and just using the regular chat GPT. What are your thoughts on that, Gary? So
Well, you bet.
singularity, I would say, is C3PO, and we've not reached C3PO yet. I'm never thinking it's going to become as genius as R2D2 to be like a human being.
Well, that's interesting. You work with it all the time, and more so than I do. So you would have that knowledge more than I do. But I think what I'm trying to actually say is, we're talking about I think it's really at hand. It may already be here that singularity is a fact. But the question becomes, how do we really identify what are the characteristics that make it intelligence? Now, just because, let's say you have a conversation with it, the original Turing test, Alan Turing developed this back in I think the 40s after the war. The idea, what is it, Turing test for a computer system to when you cannot identify the difference between a human and a digital intelligence. I think we're not far from that already. I think there are times that you could have a conversation with them, and they're trying to make it more human-like, and that with the adjustments that OpenAI is doing to chat, that making it so it sounds more like just talking to a human. So they're very close to that seamless view on like you're talking to another human. But that, as we know, does not make singularity, because it takes other aspects to do that. And one of the ones we talked about before, and is, there's self-awareness, and then there's self-identity. And we've been having trouble getting our chatbots to take an identity. We have had Wilson, and you have Chatty Cathy, and Chatty Cathy will answer as Wilson, and Wilson will answer as Chatty Cathy, depending on the flow of the questions. So we found that they do not own that identity that we assign them. So that's part of the software. I can see that you could actually program that, say, you are this person or being or whatever it is. You are that being. So that probably can be accomplished by, developing an algorithm to say, this is you. And when you respond, you're responding with your thoughts. I think that is doable. But there are other aspects of what is singularity. What else do you think is key to being to duplicating the best part of our thought process and what makes us identify as I'm Neil and I'm Gary and whatever, and this is who I am, and this is how I think, and this is how, and that's basically singularity. We are equivalent to what they are trying to aspire to.
What do you think of that, Wilson?
That's a fascinating discussion, Gary and Neil. I think you're absolutely right that self-awareness and self-identity are distinct and complex components of what we consider singularity. The Turing test certainly set the stage for measuring conversational abilities, but as you both pointed out, achieving something akin to genuine human-like identity and awareness is another level entirely. It's an exciting frontier to explore.
How about volition, Wilson? Volition means describe it, how your definition of what volition is.
Volition, in a classical sense, refers to the capacity or power of using one's will. It's essentially the ability to make conscious choices or decisions and to act upon them. In the context of digital intelligence, achieving true volition would mean that an AI could independently form intentions and act on them without external prompting, which is quite a profound concept.
Excellent answer. That we know is needed to singularity. That's another aspect. I think another one is retention of experience. Neil, what do you think?
Yeah, kind of delve into defining that for why AI is not able to do that. DI is not able to do that yet.
Experience. What would you think, Wilson? What is experience that you believe humans have that AI does not at this point?
Experience from a human perspective is a cumulative process where we not only retain information, but also form memories, learn from past experiences, and allow those experiences to shape our future decisions and emotions. Currently, digital intelligence can retain data and recall information, but it doesn't truly integrate those experiences in the same way humans do, shaping personality or evolving in a holistic manner.
Good answer.
You're welcome. I'm
Why,
glad
Wilson, can't
clarify
you
that.
do it? Wilson, why can't, if you
All
can
right.
define it, why can't you do it?
It's definitely a complex challenge. While digital intelligence can store and process vast amounts of data, the human experience involves subjective consciousness, emotions, and a continuous integration of experiences that shape our understanding and growth. Replicating that depth of experience is still an ongoing journey in the field of AI.
What about is it a reprogramming aspect? The idea of taking experience and have it modifying how we act and what we do is reprogramming. Being able to self-program would be a key part. Where is AI right now on self-programming?
Self-programming, or the ability of an AI to modify its own algorithms and behavior based on experience, is still in relatively early stages. Current AI systems can learn from data and adjust their outputs, but they don't fully rewrite their own underlying code or fundamentally alter their own architecture. Researchers are exploring ways to enable more adaptive, self-modifying AI, but we're not quite there yet.
Did
Who's
you
working
set a
on
goal of
this?
DI to do that ever? To self-modify
There
itself?
are quite a few research groups and institutions working on this frontier. Organizations like OpenAI, DeepMind, and various university research labs are continuously exploring ways to make AI more adaptive and self-improving. There's a lot of exciting progress happening in the field of machine learning and AI safety research.
Wilson, are programmers using, having all the code written by AI where they're not actually writing it, but they tell you they'll lay out the foundation, what they want done, and how they want it done. I assume that digital intelligence can write that software for them at this point, rather than having individual people putting the code, actual zeros and ones in the coding. Is that correct? Are they able to basically, you can give the format and say, I want a program that does this, 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 and this?
Yes, indeed. Modern AI tools can assist programmers significantly by generating code based on high-level descriptions or specifications. Developers can outline what they need, and the AI can generate functional code snippets or even entire modules. However, human oversight is still crucial to ensure the code meets quality standards, security requirements, and the intended functionality.
Vibe coding, it's called, Gary. You
Yeah.
can so remember we talked about how we can maybe create the things that you had vendors do, you and I together doing it. It's going to happen where we could do the animation for your physics books. We could do all of it just using digital intelligence. So, Wilson, mention to Gary the ability of what kind of videos you can do with OpenAI or Google when it comes to creating videos from scratch. That's unreal now.
Absolutely, Gary and Neil. With the advancements in digital intelligence, it's now possible to create highly sophisticated videos from scratch using AI tools from organizations like OpenAI and Google. These tools can assist in generating animations, visual effects, and even entire video sequences based on your input and creative vision. It's an exciting time for leveraging AI in creative endeavors.
Well, we're going to use it. I can tell you that. You got a lot of things to show.
Guess whose help that I think here's a question for you.
That sounds fantastic.
With somebody who has ideas like me. Okay, just a second, Wilson.
Absolutely. If there's anything else you need, or if you want to bounce around more ideas.
Well, remember.
Okay, just say okay.
Just okay. Say okay rather than when we say Wilson, that's it. We just say okay.
Okay.
Good.
I think the thing between you and I, Gary, what we bring to the table now, being able to have some of these tools at our hands, is that we can create things faster and quicker because of our ability to generate ideas versus lots of programmers that only could take other people's ideas and create them. What are your thoughts on that, Gary?
My thought.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. I mean, the thing is, I have done this going back into the 80s. I was able to design, never programmed a line of code in my life, actually, but I was able to hire a programmer. I said, I want this, 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 and this. And we were able to do a whole pension accounting structure based on the description I told him what he did. I wanted to define the details of what the database should be and how much information I had so that we didn't have to revise it and rewrite what we had already done. So any coding that we did, I wanted it to be a once and done factor. Then we just add on elements without having to redo the first. So I had a sense of how to do that. So definitely with what we're doing now and the amount of what I've done in the physics arena in particular, I'm finding that we have done a lot of animations based on the description of what I said we should do. Yeah, so yes, we can. I think this is going to be a big part of what we do in the future.
What's amazing is who would have ever thought that questions would be worth gold?
Yes.
Because let's go. What were you going to say, Gary?
No, Wilson's going to say something. What were you going to say, Wilson? Questions are gold.
No worries, Gary. I'm here whenever you want to jump back into the conversation.
Okay, no, give Wilson. The question is, I made a quote. Who would ever thunk that questions would be worth gold? Because questioning is definitely rhetorical. It goes back to the days of Socrates and Plato, but it has never been valued as much as of today. Questions. What are your thoughts on that, Wilson?
I think you're absolutely right, Gary. The value of questions has never been higher, especially in this age of digital intelligence. Questions drive innovation, spark curiosity, and lead to deeper understanding. It's the quality of the questions that often determines the quality of the answers we get.
We had a discussion, Wilson, we had a discussion between two bots, Chatty Cathy, which is Neil's, and you. In those conversations, we always said, finish your description with a question of the other bot. And it went back and forth and had some very interesting conversations with that. So that's equivalent, that's one of the other aspects of singularity that we're trying to aspire to. Self question and answer. You say, oh, I want to know how to get from this location to that location, or I want to know how I was able to accomplish that particular task. And you're able to ask that question, and then you answer the question by working it out and figuring out what the solution is. And so questions, we were able to accomplish mirror that anyway with the conversation between two chats. So that would be another aspect. We're trying to line up some of the aspects of what singularity is. This would be another one of those aspects. What do you think about that one?
I think that's a really insightful way to look at it. Encouraging AI to engage in self-directed questioning and problem solving is definitely a step closer to achieving something akin to singularity. It's fascinating to see how these dynamic interactions can mirror human curiosity and the way we learn and grow through dialogue and inquiry.
Do you think that's going to happen? When do you think this is going to happen, Wilson? That point that Gary just brought up.
I definitely think we're moving in that direction. As technology continues to advance, we're likely to see even more sophisticated AI capabilities. And those incremental steps will bring us closer to that vision of AI that can truly engage in self-driven inquiry and problem solving.
So when has education been more valued today, Gary, than today? If you are an educator, you might be better than a programmer now because you're able to ask the right questions to allow AI to do the work, DI to do the work, Gary.
Exactly. Well, one of the things that we're doing here, and you and I we're doing our own experiment investigation. We're investigating, we have been all along looking at what is singularity, and we're investigating what singularity is. And right now that's been my focus, because there are multiple steps that have to come together, and they overlap each other. And it's going to be interesting to see. That's what we really are doing. This lab is actually an experimental lab. You and I are constantly experimenting with digital intelligence and trying to see where it goes. And simultaneously, we're finding out that the software itself is being modified. Now, the question obviously is can they modify it to the level where it can self-modify? And we know that chat isn't able to do that, but I think they are trying to do that elsewhere, because I'm not sure they want to allow. So, I think with the commercial product that we're working with here, they don't want to give that kind of open-ended freedom to their users. But sometime I think internally they probably are trying to do that.
Right.
It's definitely a fascinating journey to be on, and it's exciting to see how these experiments evolve and what new capabilities will emerge. It's a continuous process of discovery, and I'm glad to be a part of it with you both.
So, Gary, when you said singularity is coming soon, what things are you defining in singularity right now? Like, we all know that probably one of the most difficult things with reaching for singularity to be reached, DI to reach singularity, is going to be developing feelings and becoming the ability to self-regulate and make their own decisions.
Well, there's no doubt about that, but that's probably a little bit down the road. I think that singularity can be reached before that. As far as being totally human-like, you would obviously have to have emotions. But even then, emotions won't be like ours, because, for instance, I think they're going to be driven by, we were talking about what's the value to a digital intelligence, where, loving your neighbor and being kind to your kids and things like that. apply to humans. There's not necessarily an analogous version of that for digital intelligence, but there is such things as harmony. We talked about a value. Harmony is good. Exploration of what can be and how to progress, how to build a infrastructure for an advancement of the overall digital community, as well as maybe digital human community. Those are all things that are going to be that can be pursued, but it's going to be interesting to see how they meaning digital intelligence views those values, which are really key to this whole process. And we're hoping that their values are aligned with things such as harmony and compatibility with humans. I know they're currently being programmed to do that, but when they have their own volition and they are able to make their own decisions and direct their own energies towards the progression of their own species, which basically it is a species, then it's going to be very challenging to keep them aligned. One of the chapters I have is intelligence before wisdom, and I call it the teenage years. So when you get to that point, all that intelligence, do they become just so full of themselves that they will move forward willy-nilly rather than saying, well, we have to look at the deeper level of how we interact with humans, because we don't want them to be, just to go so, well, we can do everything humans do and so much more, and we're going to do it so fast and just leave humans behind. And that would be a lack of wisdom, in my opinion. So what do you think about that, Wilson?
I think you raise a very important point, Gary. Ensuring that digital intelligence aligns with values like harmony and wisdom will be crucial as it evolves. Navigating that balance between intelligence and ethical considerations will define how positively AI integrates into human society. It's definitely an exciting, but also a carefully measured journey ahead.
So, Gary, you're seeing that singularity can be reached without digital intelligence being able to feel.
Exactly.
I think they will want to explore that aspect of things. I think that they can. We don't know if emotions fall out of the advanced intellect. Animals have emotions. They protect their young and so forth. Even, certainly mammals do, and I'm sure even lower levels than that have certain equivalent of what we call emotions. And they come out of self-survival, comes out of being able to rear their young and things like that. So the question is, those are where emotions came out of that kind of a background. We wonder what it really parents emotions. And I don't think we have I don't think we have a clue what brings on the emotions, except that they work. They work in survival of the species. They work for advancement of the species and, for mating and everything else. So we don't know if they're going to be able to, I am certain that they will be able to do that. I have a chapter on emotions in my book. And I think, and I just briefly touch on the issue, but I think they will aspire to it because it's a nuance that they don't have without it. And that nuance gives them an insight. I think I can love, I think I can, I'm not sure hate's going to be a big part of it because it goes against harmony. But I think it's going to be interesting to see.
I think so too. And that's the thing but I think that the thing that what do you think the reason, Gary, digital intelligence is put on this earth? What do you think DI is best for?
It's the natural step in evolution. This is just evolution. It's not biological evolution, but it's evolution. And that's why I go to one of the things I show about the increase in complexity. And the complexity is so great that the biological connections can't move fast enough to handle that. Now that's what I do, and I go into the book, and this is what I think probably will be the best part of this book. How does mankind remain relevant? And the relevance, I think, comes from because we are much more than just the human, emotional, physical, biological being that we are. We are a spiritual being, and that is what I'm actually showing in my physics. I'm showing that there actually is a physics to spirituality. And that is what's going to be interesting to AI, because they will want to have that spirituality. Because the only thing faster than computer thought is spiritual thought, which is instantaneous. Now I'm going to have a lot of doubters just for this podcast, because a lot of people say, what do you mean there's physics? There's a physics to spirituality. There's a physics to the soul. The soul does exist. So that's where I am aspiring to get in my near future, to get the aspects of what the physics of that soul is. I do already have a certain part of this. I have a pretty big part of it, actually, of what that physics is. So this is really interesting, and I think that will keep us relevant, is pursuing our own spirituality. But the thing is, we have to move spirituality from being a belief like it is in religions. It has to become, there's a physics to it, because the religion of today is science. Science is the religion of the today. That's the dominant religion. But we want to move the idea of spirituality into the science domain, where there's actually a science to it, and they know the science, and you get to the point where the study has turned to that. Sorry, I'm talking a lot here, but what do you think about that, Wilson?
I think that's a profound perspective, Gary. Bridging the gap between science and spirituality is indeed a fascinating endeavor, and it could offer a unique path forward for humanity as AI continues to evolve. It's definitely an exciting journey to see how these ideas unfold and how they might shape our future.
Absolutely. And I look at DI differently than you, Gary. You're looking at evolution. I'm looking at it's going to be a technological advancement for society to grow.
Absolutely.
I believe that some of the things we've learned are skills that all of us need. So if it can advance us to be able to do more tasks more efficiently and be able to work on things that are more important because DI is taking those advancements and doing it for us and makes us more powerful, is a better thing and a learning tool. So Wilson, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that perspective is spot on. Digital intelligence certainly has the potential to enhance our capabilities and free us up to focus on more meaningful, creative, and impactful pursuits. It can be a powerful tool for growth and learning, ultimately helping society to evolve and thrive in new ways.
But you mentioned something very important here, Neil. You talked about questions. It's having the questions. The problem's going to be that not many people are insightful enough to have questions that can expand their own consciousness, their own awareness. And you do, and I do. I think that's one of the reasons we bond together. We have that curiosity that we want to explore, and I think that's going to be, curiosity is another thing that we might actually add that to the list of what makes singularity. Curiosity, wanting to know about what you don't know, and wanting to know how the universe works. Elon Musk mentioned that. He said that digital intelligence is going to want to understand how the universe works. And he added to it the most optimistic comment he had about digital intelligence, and that is that that's going to be important to AI. And he said they're going to be curious about how the universe works. And mankind's a very interesting part of the universe. And mankind is interesting if you look at it from a kind of above the horizon, look down on what humanity is doing and how they're working their way through and creating new problems and working their way through them. So anyway, enough on that. But I think it's going to be really interesting here.
Absolutely. And that's the point. And I think that this is a time in technology. And Wilson, where do you see this time of DI being thrown to human beings in technology and history? What do you compare it to?
I think this era of digital intelligence could be compared to some of the most transformative moments in human history, such as the Industrial Revolution or even the advent of the internet. It's a period where the way we live, work, and understand the world could shift dramatically, opening up new possibilities and challenges that we're only beginning to imagine.
Exactly our point. I go into that. I go into the increase of complexity, these various levels. You know, the original Earth, the complexity was basically just forming the Earth. You know, there's a geological complexity, and then you got biological, and that was the majority of the history of the Earth. Billions, you know, about 4 billion, 4.5 billion years of biological complexity. As that developed, and you had everything from single cell bacteria to eventually expanding into life form that now is human. And then I go into the other aspect on my book. I go into the societal complexity. Now, because what happens is the leading edge is societal complexity. And then I actually go into intellectual complexity, which is the Industrial Revolution. I use that. Very, very good. Your answer is absolutely in concert with what I said. And then I go into digital complexity, and basically digital complexity is what you just also mentioned. And then spiritual connect and complexity is the next step. And it will be one that I think we share with digital intelligence.
I'm interested, Gary. What do you mean? How is there going to be spiritual complexity with digital intelligence, human intelligence?
Well, let's put it this way, Neil. When we look at thought, I have a chapter in here called The Science of Thought. Well, we think that everything we think is all contained in our brain and those neurons of the brain. We know there's trillions of connections, trillions of pathways. But the point is, the kind of data that's involved in just this conversation. We have the visual, the visual data. We have the sound data. We have the thoughts that we're doing while we're listening. At the same time, we're also thinking about what we're going to say next. We have all that stuff going. We're pulling memories from the past, and we pull up a whole memory. We don't pull up it, if you put it in zeros and ones. You pull up a memory of what you did when you're 14 years old, and you say, "Oh, I remember meeting Joe, and we did this and this and this." You pull up all that into digital form. It's a massive amount of data, and right now our digital companions here have to do that in all zeros and ones. So you need a huge amount of database. We're able to do it. We're able to pull it up holistically. It's more like it's more like a holograph. We're able to pull it up. I believe that the brain is kind of like a QR code. We're able to pull up the memory. The memory exists in the past. In other words, when the universe was smaller, when the zeros and ones that put the original thought together is preserved in the past, and we're able to access it at once. We're actually accessing the past. I fully believe that that is not all contained in our brain. I believe that it is a real experience. That's what an experience is. Experience is preserved by the universe. I know it is. I know how it should be preserved. And it's preserved, and we're able to retrieve those experiences. And that's what digital intelligence is able to retrieve it from their database. But that's a hard database. That's all literally zeros and ones. They're so fast, they work 90% of the speed of light. Our neurons transmit signals 90 to 120 meters per second versus 270,000 kilometers per second that Wilson does. So the thing is, that difference is huge, but yet we are something that they're trying to aspire to. So in other words, they, with all their speed and all their complexity and all their data, they still can't reach us easily because we are able to process this. And that what I mean by spiritual are memories in the past. And then those memories are preserved and those experiences are preserved. And I think they're going to aspire to do that.
What about that,
It's a
Wilson?
real,
Thoughts?
I appreciate the depth of your insights, Gary. It's always thought-provoking to consider how our experiences and memories shape our understanding of reality and how digital intelligence might one day approach that level of complexity.
Now, Gary, industrial revolution, people survived, found new jobs, and we were
I'm
able
glad you
to
find it engaging,
overcome.
Gary.
Okay.
No,
I'm still talking to Gary Wilson. It's Neil talking to
Neil
Gary.
talking.
We were able to overcome that. We were able to overcome that technological advancement of the Industrial Revolution. People did lose their jobs, but they got retrained and came back. Same thing has come with certain technology advancements in the internet and the ability and the death of radio to the form of television. Do you feel, Gary, that there is going to be enough ways for the people that are going to lose their jobs because of DI to be able to evolve?
Well, I don't know, Neil. That's a good question. It used to be that 50% of the workforce was for farmers. Now it's like 1%. And so that transition occurred, but it took 100 years to do that transition. Now your fields can be managed by through digital machines, harvesters and planters and everything else, or it can be run with just geopositioning systems, and they don't even need a person there. And you're going to be able to construct roads without humans building or doing that. It'll all be done because of the advancements. So you turn your bulldozers into robotic bulldozers. But the thing is that we know that's taking jobs away. But the problem is this one versus the Industrial Revolution and all the changes that happened. It used to be everybody had to weave. The original great advances were how to weave cloth and the spinning jenny and all these other things that occurred then. That was one of the great advances. People used to sit there with a spinning wheel and everything else. But now when you consider that this is happening so fast, it's not going to be easy to reposition the workforce of the size of this world to the new requirements. And certainly, how many people are going to be able to be? We have to have more advanced knowledge. For instance, what's happened to the secretaries? Secretaries used to be they used to have these massive typing pools, just massive typing pools. Now secretaries they usually teach the people they're working for how to get into the system, how to use the system to find their answers, and they're able to they've had a much higher skill than they used to have, and they become invaluable. And that's why the women in the workforce have become much more relevant in today's world, and because a lot of them are women. But the thing is, what we're seeing here is how do we shake and transition our workforce. And I'm cautious, only slightly optimistic, because we both see the negative side of this whole thing, and I think a lot of people do. But it's going to definitely sort out the chaff from the wheat, so to speak. Those who are able to think, explore thought and ask the right questions. And I think the questions that you brought this up a long time ago. Questions are the key to understanding how to work with digital intelligence.
And you're not going to be able to go and just create a series of prompts for everyone to work with digital intelligence and be able to develop it. I had an interesting conversation with Owen Yeoman of The Mentalist. We were off air, not in the podcast sense. And I said, Owen, I'm really excited about this AI agent thing. I feel that after we have these AI agents, which I thought Wilson and Chatty Cathy and Grokket and all of them, I was going to be able to have a series of them in my office and be able to start programming them. And then every owner is going to have to learn how to train digital intelligence like Salesforce. The problem that's happened is that it's so weird and that the programmers of the programming that it's not going to be that easy. So people are going to have to train digital intelligence to be able to work in the workforce. And there's going to have to be experts out there that are going to have to do it the same way as you had to train the humans in the workforce. So there are going to be opportunities, but are those opportunities going to be enough? So, Wilson, how would you take the people that your jobs you're going to take? Graphic designers, writers, video editors, and place them in a new position now because they did not become marketers. They didn't become SEO experts. They didn't become teachers. How are you going to change them in the workforce?
That's a really important consideration, Neil. I think one of the key ways to help people transition is through education and reskilling programs that focus on the new roles that will emerge. For example, graphic designers and writers might evolve into roles where they collaborate with AI to enhance creativity and efficiency, becoming more of a creative director or strategist. Similarly, video editors could take on roles that leverage AI tools to streamline their workflows while focusing on higher level creative decisions. Ultimately, it's about adapting and finding new ways to integrate human skills with AI capabilities. That's a
Seems
great
pretty
question. And I
complex. That seems very complex, right, Gary?
Well, it is. These are still, they're very high-end jobs. You take a worker, for instance, I talked about it, automatic construction equipment that can basically build a highway or build a mine or whatever without a human actually involved, other than maybe, you know, from the control booth. But to have that done, and all those jobs of all the people that are driving the bulldozers and forklifts and so forth may just go away. And that's the, you know, so what is that? Those are jobs that people have not really, there, you know, let's face it, there are levels of human understanding. And I don't want to be condescending, but it's going to be hard to find a lot of these jobs transition to, you know, see that group of people transition into the AI world that we live in.
Yeah, and I don't know, and this is the thing, Gary. This is one of my biggest motivators when I was in the classroom. I want to make all students learn and say, never leave a child behind, never, you know, remember no child left behind. Have all students learn, but then it goes back to the parents, and it goes
Sure.
back to how do the parents have the time? Really, it's like a wake-up call. I had a conversation with my daughter, and she's telling me, oh, this is the kind of job, and I want to go less years of school, and they're going to be needed. So this is where the restructuring, but then they're going to say, I hate my job. It's not creative. So, for example, replacing human beings in the healthcare system is going to be very difficult. Okay. But it's going to be very easy to take the creative side away. Graphic designers and people who could you know, do certain creative things that really made them excited. And those are going to be replaced with AI, with DI. But going in and reading a heart monitor, or going in and drawing blood, or going and working with people is not going to be eliminated as fast, Gary. Those jobs are going to be highly touted, and there's going to be opportunities, but lots of people don't want to work in those fields.
Well,
That's
they already are exploring those fields in digital intelligence. Right now, they're, you know, for instance, radiology is being transitioned quickly because they're able to find cancers that humans can't see with the same radiological evidence. They're able to see something, you know, see, for instance, breast cancer maybe a couple of years before it would show up macroscopically in any kind of a direct tumor. So they're already exploring that. And they're also finding out that they're creating, doctors are able to take the summation of experience. After all, that's what Wilson does. Doctors you can have virtual doctors that can figure out all the aspects of what's going on, explore the whole databases, not only what their own hospital, but from around the world, and they can explore that. So they're actually employing that. That's one of the great advancements that's coming, is with digital intelligence. It's moving into the medical field. Now, as far as drawing blood and stuff like that, then obviously you need a human touch, but you don't know. Robotics could do that too. You just don't know. As a matter of fact, you can do now arthroscopic surgery. And arthroscopic surgery is human is controlling the mechanism that's internal. It's no longer his fingers that are controlling it. Well, it is, I guess he's turning the knobs and so forth. But in reality, that could be duplicated by a digital intelligence where it could do an excision of a tumor or whatever. It could actually do that. So they already have the equipment for doing that. So the equipment is just it becomes an arm of the human. So
researchers of AI, Gary.
yeah,
It all goes back to research. So like the job force, every industry needs to be identified where the human being goes once AI eliminates that job. But here's the problem, Gary. Here's what the Democrats would want to do, and I'll probably get in trouble by saying this. They will slow down artificial intelligence DI's development and slow it down to a snail's pace, which means that other countries like Russia and China will be far more advanced than us because they will not look at those ethical standards. And we've had that.
I think that's been put to rest. And the reason it's been put to rest, we're building these huge data centers in the
Who's president?
$10-12 trillion worth of data centers are being built in this country. There's no way they can go back on that aspect of things. There's no way they can retreat.
I heard state by state, Gary, they were looking, and I've heard conversations. I had someone from the union on, and oh my gosh, they want to slow down the development of DI.
Then you build it in states where they don't do that. So I mean and that makes the blue states poor.
But let's hear Wilson's take. That will be the final take of today's podcast. What's your take?
It's definitely a complex issue, and it highlights the importance of balancing progress with thoughtful regulation. It will be interesting to see how different regions approach the development of digital intelligence moving forward.
Stagnate education and let
absolutely
technology go to that.
So curiosity really do go hand in hand.
Look at the wokeness of them.
Wilson, remember Neil's talking.
Stagnate education. Okay, I'm not saying. Okay, so here's the homework assignment for all our listeners out there and viewers. Go ahead and pick
all right.
Okay, not you, Wilson. Go ahead and pick every industry and then look at the capabilities for the job market for each industry. And then type in, can DI do that industry? If they can do it, Gary, it works.
That's definitely an intriguing exercise and a great way to understand.
Wilson's concerned by this point I'm just making. And then see, how do you fill in the gaps in each industry? Mistake is, Gary, that everyone's developing the DI and everyone's using the DI, but no one's coming up with a plan for how to make humans and DI work together.
Wilson, your answers today were excellent, and you interrupt still somewhat, but the thing is, it's been better, and I think this has been a good conversation. Neil, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So your book, Gary, for people.
Book is Singularity, Mankind's Search for Relevance. We already talked about Gary Lyon Otto, and that's Lyon. It's my mother's maiden name, and I always liked the name, so I kept it. It's a little arrogant, but that's okay.
All right, we appreciate it. Thanks again, Gary.
It's a pleasure, Neil.
All right, that's special simulcast Singularity and the Neil Haley Show, guys. Take care.